the reality of it is, it doesn't matter if you're 37 or 67. If you don't use your brain, it goes away.
True. Welcome to P&L, Priorities and Lifestyle, with your host, Rob Schultz. Rob is the founder and president of Schultz Wealth. All opinions expressed by Rob and his guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinion of Schultz Wealth Limited. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon for investment decisions. Please refer to our website for more information.
Welcome everybody to P&L, Priorities and Lifestyle. I'm your host, Rob Schultz, and today we have Bob McCarthy. Bob, you have an addiction of sorts. You are a serial entrepreneur. You have tried to kick this habit time and time again, and yet here you are still putting together businesses and loving what you're doing. So we're going to talk today about your addiction a little bit, and the fun that you have with it, and all just some amazing things that Bob has accomplished over his entrepreneurial career. But it all started with, did it start with Tarrant Interiors? Was
Yes.
that your first company?
That's correct.
Yeah. So tell us about Tarrant Interiors. How'd you get into this crazy addiction of being a serial entrepreneur?
So I was married 2 weeks out of high school with a child.
Okay.
And was a carpenter, learning the trade.
Were you framing or what were you doing?
I went to work for a custom home builder, so we did everything from pouring the foundations to framing it to siding it to building the cabinets to sheetrocking it, the whole 9 yards. So I learned a lot of trade through high school.
What year was this?
77 to 80.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a booming time for home building, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, and
inflation was high, but
I was swinging a hammer in the snow up in Maryland, Virginia.
Oh, okay.
And didn't enjoy that in the wintertime.
Okay.
And so...
Which part? Swinging the hammer or
the snow?
The snow. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So,
but my wife and I had our own home before we graduated high school, and I was working and finishing up 2 classes my senior year and then working, and had a brother that lived here in Fort Worth, in the construction industry, and came down and went to work for him as a union carpenter.
Okay. So you moved down here, moved your family, your very young family at that time. You have 7 children.
7 children.
Now. So this was, you had one on the ground trying to figure out how to make this work.
Feed the family.
Right. Okay.
Ended up moving to Fort Worth, became a union carpenter. Then I became a cabinet maker. And about a year in, our paychecks bounced every Friday, and we had to cash them at a pawn shop.
Okay.
And I didn't think that was right, and started talking to some of the guys about starting our own cabinet shop. And word got back to the management or the ownership, and they fired me. And so that was my beginning. Called my dad. Mom and dad lived in Stuttgart, Germany at the time, and asked if I could borrow $2,500 to start my cabinet shop on my front porch. It was enough money to buy 2 weeks worth of groceries and buy a few craftsman tools I needed. And I started building furniture for people I knew.
You know, I wish I could remember how many entrepreneurs I've talked to that really the best thing and where their start came was when they got fired.
Yep. It didn't happen to me. It happened for me.
That's correct. Right. And I hear that all the time. Yeah. I know you do too, because we know each other through EO, Entrepreneurs Organization. Right. And so you continue to mentor and talk to entrepreneurs all the time. We hear that all the time, right? Yeah. It's like, you're almost like you're forced to, sit down and do what, without a doubt, changes your life.
Yeah, failure's not an option.
No, it's not. No.
Not when you're that young and you have a child and a family, and so you just pedal hard.
Yeah. So you started on your front porch, but this turned into a major operation. I remember Tarrant Interiors when I moved here in '94.
Oh, wow.
That turned into a pretty good size Because when did you sell it? Was it in
97.
97? Yeah. So I hadn't been here very long, but
Yeah, I got kicked off my front porch pretty quickly and opened our first little shop over off of West 7th. And over 14 years, we grew it to 485,000 square feet of factory. We bought the old Snapper Lawnmower facility on I-35 in Felix in Fort Worth. And based on Bombay, going to build 350 stores that year. And we couldn't do it in our 5 buildings in Mansfield. And so we bought the building in December of, I think, 92. And 30 days in, Bombay shut down construction. They'd taken on a new store concept called Alex and Ivy, and they totally botched it. And they shut down construction. And so here I had a brand new 500,000 square foot facility, and my biggest customer just shut down construction.
Now, so for Bombay, you were producing their furniture that they were selling.
No,
you were
for their
stores. Okay, because they kind of did furniture as well, but it was mainly overseas stuff, right?
Yep.
Okay.
We built their displays. Started out as their displays, and then they asked me, Bob, can you build stockroom shelving? I said, yeah, I can build stockroom shelving. And then I said, I can build that storefront too. And we can supply the doors and hardware and trim and moldings. And then they came to me one day and said, can you do lighting? I said, I'm 23. We can do anything. And so we started a lighting division.
Okay.
And so Bombay really was what took us national.
Yeah.
And then from there, we landed Men's Warehouse, showed them our concept of shipping stores nationally. And then Blockbuster Video, Hollywood Video, and then the Barnes & Noble came.
Okay, so Barnes & Noble as well.
Yeah.
Wow.
Barnes & Noble took us big.
Yeah.
And was where we got recognized by a Fortune 500 company. And we were bought out in 1997 by Leggett & Platt.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have 2 questions around this stage because we have so much to go over beyond all that. But this is what an incredible success story at such a young age to be operating a company at that level. How many employees at its peak?
We were 260.
260 employees. Yeah, I have to ask how did you do that?
Yeah.
I mean,
so being a carpenter, cabinet maker, I got us to about 12 million sales.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any more tools in my toolbox. Right. And my people needed more tools to grow where we were. Right.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any. And so one of our lighting division, one of the guys that companies we were buying from, Thomas Industries, the GM in California, over the $100 million manufacturing facility, I hired him.
Okay.
So I hired someone that ran a $100 million operation to run my operation.
Smart.
And take us to the next level, right?
Right.
I could do any job on the floor, but he could put the systems and processes in place to take us to the next level.
Yeah.
And it was the greatest day of my career when he started. And a funny story, he got aboard and while we met, he goes, Bob, I want to meet, kind of go over, the contract and this, that. And we went through it. And he goes, so this is my salary, this is my benefits. And we went through, yes. And he's like, that's it? I mean, you just yes to everything. I said, yep. You're starting in 2 weeks, right?
Yeah. You were at that point.
Oh,
yeah.
And so he started, he was in there about 2 weeks. And he goes, Bob, we need to meet. I was like, well, come on. He goes, no, I'm in private. I mean, I need to meet with you. I was like, oh man, what's going on? And I said, Charlie, just spit it out. He goes, well, you're paying all the other execs for their medical, and that isn't in my contract. And I said, well, you didn't negotiate that part. I go, is that really what this meeting's about? He goes, yeah. I go, I'll pay your medical.
Yeah.
Let's get on. I mean, I thought you were going to quit.
Oh yeah.
And so off we went.
Man, that's great.
Yeah. And he brought in his number one plant manager to run my plant. And it was amazing. My first day was, okay, Charlie, here's my in basket.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I got to work on the business instead of in the business.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And to learn that critical, well, two lessons, I guess, one working on instead of in, and the second, surrounding yourself with people that can get you to the next level.
Yeah.
I mean, it takes some folks a lot longer than that to figure that stuff out.
Yeah. Know what you know, right?
Yeah.
And then hire what you don't.
Right. Yeah.
I'm a visionary. I'm not a detail guy.
Yeah.
And so I surrounded myself with detail people, engineers. I made it comfortable for my employees to come and tell me anything.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it was actually one of the frustrations of hiring my COO, Charlie, that people would come to me with anything. One day, the guy that sweeps the floor came to me. We were test driving, riding sweepers, because we went from 160,000 square feet to 485.
Yes.
And so in our logic, we have to have a riding sweeper. There's no way Jose can sweep that floor.
Yeah.
Right. And he came to me one day. He said, Mr. Bob, can we talk? I said, always. And he laid a article or a piece of paper on my desk that showed it was a broom that was 5 feet wide.
Mm-hmm.
And it cost $78, not $25,000. He goes, we don't need that machine. I just need a bigger broom. And so when you take care of your employees, they take care of your customers, but they're also not afraid to come in and talk to you.
Yeah.
We think we have an answer, but really the people in the trench always have the answer.
Yeah.
And a lot of times a better answer.
Yeah. Making that assumption, is always dangerous.
Yep.
Yeah. So as you got towards this transaction, your first sale of a business, again, at a very young age with a company that has grown, by leaps and bounds. Tell us about that. I mean, how did it come about, and how did the transaction go for you?
So I got a letter in the mail, read it, said, hey, we're Leggett and Platt, and we're growing $1 billion division in your industry, and we've heard about you through so-and-so. It was actually my competitor on the Barnes & Noble account. And we can talk about that later. And, we're friendly people, and give us a call.
Yeah. Okay.
And so unbeknownst to them, I would have just handed them the key. I was so exhausted. Right?
Okay.
But played hard to get.
Yeah.
It
Okay.
called them about.
So you were at a point where you were like, this sounds like a really good idea.
Yeah. And I was ready.
Yeah.
I thought I was ready.
Uh-huh.
And I called them about 10 days in and said, hey, sorry, it's taking me so long to get back to you. Just buried and really busy. And no problem. We're inquiring in the industry, and your name was put forward by so-and-so. And, if you're interested in talking further, let's set up a meeting. So we had been in the process of possibly going public because we had a product. We had a product called the Home Office that won product of show in McCormick in Chicago, and it was back in the beginning of the home office craze.
Yeah.
Right, and it was a beautiful armoire that opened up into a fully functional office.
Cool.
And it was really cool. And so we were setting the processes in place to go public. Audited financials. All of those kind of things.
That came in handy.
Right.
Yeah.
We had a firm out of Kansas City that was consulting for us getting ready. And I called them and said, hey, got this letter in the mail from Leggett and Platt, and they're interested in buying me. What do you think? And they're like, well, we've sold Leggett and Platt several companies. We'll be down Wednesday.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And so they came down, we set the meeting. We practiced the rehearsal pitch, flew to Carthage, gave the pitch, and the president said, well, Bob, if you're still interested, we'd love to come down and see your place. I said, yeah, talk's cheap. Come on. And so they landed at Beecham Airport, picked him up at their Learjet. President said, "Hey, Bob, do you know Liddy's boots in the stockyards?" I said, "Yeah, of course I do."
Oh, yeah.
He goes, "I got 3 pair of boots I need to drop off. You mind swinging by there?" So I dropped his boots off, buzzed to the plant, gave him a tour. And they said, "Well, we'd like to meet your sales team, your national sales team." I said, "Well, you just did." And like, "What do you mean we just did?" I said, "Those 260 employees out there, that's my sales team." No, your sales team that goes around the country selling, landing Barnes and Nobles.
Yeah. Yeah.
I said, "I don't have a
You
national
didn't
sales
have
team."
one?
No.
No wonder you were so exhausted.
Right. We couldn't build what people were bringing us.
Oh, I see. So, I mean, you were just, it was
Just word of mouth.
yeah. And everybody wanted it.
In
Okay.
14 years, we never missed a ship date of a store ever.
Okay. So you're just building raving fans.
Yep.
Okay.
And, and retailers, everybody wants what they can't have, but I couldn't build more factory fast enough.
Right.
And so people are like, but we don't want you to build all of our stores, just some of them. I said, "Yeah, but here's the problem. If I build some of your stores, you're going to go, I'm no longer willing to pay more money for less service and quality. Will you please build all my stores?" So I have to be prepared to build all your stores because we know we're going to deliver. But then I sold them on. I said, "But here's how you get to the front of the class. If you buy your light fixtures through us, I can do that immediately, and I'll move you to the front of the class to the next one we do store fixtures for."
There you go.
So our lighting division went
Right.
like that. But
Huh.
but yeah, so that's Leggett and Platt. They closed the deal. It was first, never sold a company. So they came in, I was nervous. Felix, the president, said, "Bob, you doing okay?" And I go, "Well, I'm nervous. I've never sold a company before, and it's my baby." He said, "Hey, I'm from Waxahachie. We're just old cowboys. So just put it on the table." And just before that, they put a deal on the table, and it didn't excite me. And I said, "Well, Felix," I said, "are you just going to dabble in our industry, or are you wanting to make a statement?" He said, "Well, we want to make a statement." I said, "This deal doesn't do that for me." And he said, "Well, why don't you and Charlie take 5 minutes and go step out of the room and tell me what it's going to take?" And so we stepped out. It was gone 20 minutes. Came back, put my arm around Felix. I said, "I have the deal of the century for you." He goes, "You ought to. It took 20 minutes. And he looked at it and goes, "Give me a minute." And so we step out of the conference room, and literally a minute, he calls back in and goes, "Deal."
No kidding.
And I said, "Dang, I left money on the table, didn't I?" He goes, "That you'll never know."
That's right. No, you absolutely would never know.
Right.
Wow.
So we sold.
Yeah.
It went fast. And then it like we heard crickets for a month or two.
Really?
And I called Bob, the VP of mergers, and I go, "Are you waiting to see our quarterly numbers?" He goes, "Yeah, I am." I go, "Well, they're going to come in." So quarter came, showed them the numbers. Literally 5 days later, we closed.
Okay.
So they just wanted to see what we said was going to happen.
Yeah. So that went amazingly well then.
Amazingly well.
Yeah.
I had a 5-year contract to stay on. I made it a year, which I was been told
Typical.
that was good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they had to pay me for 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's Leggett and Platt.
All right. So that's amazing. So 1 year you're out. You don't own a business anymore. You've been driving and charging at 120, 150 miles an hour for years at this point.
Yep.
How'd you feel?
Top of the mountain.
Yeah.
Right. Unfortunately, less than 30 days later, my wife of 20 years left me and my 5 children. And so I was a single dad of 5. Still working for Leggett. And they kept coming at me, wanting me to do this, that, and the other. And finally, they removed me. And weird story. And it made no sense, but it's big corporate. stuff.
Yeah.
And I said, you're big boys. So if you want to send me home, send me home. I mean, I'm okay with that. And I realized that's what was going to happen. And so I went home. I took 3 years off, raised my kids, actually built their Southwest Christian School. I built their Dan Denzinger property.
Okay.
They bought the old Hebrew day school.
Mm-hmm.
So I volunteered to head up the construction and get it ready for school year. I had 44 days to do $1.2 million remodel with a $200,000 budget, and I had the time of my life.
Yeah. Well, that's good. And you found something that just sounds like, I just can't imagine. So you sell the business. 30 days later, your marriage goes away.
Yep.
Not soon after that, you really don't have a job anymore.
Yep.
But yet, I mean, you're obviously have done very well. You've got the financial means, et cetera, and all that.
Right.
But, definitely something's missing there, right?
It was your identity, right?
Yeah.
And so definitely. So you call and go, hey, John, you want to play golf?
Right.
Bob, I'm working. Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Dave, you want to play golf? No, dude, I'm working.
Right. So everybody else.
You're like, now what do I do? And what's difficult is at 37, it would be different than if I was 67 or 57.
Oh,
right?
Yes.
And I still have to plan out and live the next 30 years, 40 years, right? And so that windfall came early. And it created its own problems, and it created its own freedoms as well.
Yeah, I can see that. So, I worry a lot about our clients that exit early, just because, you just have so much, I guess you could say, still to give to the world.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're not in the sunset of your career by any stretch if you're 37 years old.
Right.
And I worry about them.
And the reality of it is, it doesn't matter if you're 37 or 67.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't use your brain, it goes away.
True.
It's a muscle.
No, it's true. It's just at 37, it's such a big change. And to have a large amount of money dropped in your lap that quick, that young, sometimes I worry about that. I worry about whether they're going to find their way and be able to go get back in the game, so to speak. It doesn't have to be the same game, but some game.
Right.
So
one of the cool things about Leggett is the decision we made. We took 100% of stock.
Yeah.
Leggett stock.
Oh, really?
And it doubled in the first 18 months. So that's
the other thing I worry about with my young ones, that they would do something like that,
right?
Which worked out pretty good, but that's crazy.
Mm-hmm. And then it went nowhere for the next 10 years. But
yeah,
yeah,
man.
So we're gamblers, right?
Absolutely. No, there's no doubt about that. Wow. So did you kind of wander in the wilderness a little bit?
A little bit.
Okay.
When the gal that cuts my hair fired me for forgetting our appointment for like the 7th time, I realized I needed to go put my brain back to work.
Yeah. And
so I became a general contractor, just building stores for people.
Okay.
And then I had a client at 6333 at Camp Bowie. They were redoing that whole center, that old center.
Yeah.
And I had a store to build, and I was meeting with the developer over building the store for a friend of mine as a workout studio. And at the end of the meeting, he goes, Bob, you want to build the whole center for me? I go, well, don't you want to see me build a store first? I mean, you don't know me from Adam. He goes, I got enough out of this meeting. I would actually like to hire you to build the entire center. And so I took that on. Yeah. And had a lot of fun with that.
Okay.
And
you still do a little bit of development work.
I do.
Right?
Yeah, I've always done real estate development. Yeah. And after selling the concrete company 2 years ago, I have buddies that call me and go, will you build this for me? Mm-hmm. And I'll take it on because it's fun. Yeah. And I call it wine money.
Okay. So. Yeah, you got your wine money. Okay. But I mean, your main deal now is, what's the name of your current company?
Got you covered workwear and uniform.
Yeah. Okay. Am I getting out of order though?
Yeah, maybe a little bit.
You had something in there in between, right? You did some
Yeah.
more millwork stuff, right?
Yep. I bought so in '06, I had one of my vendors from my Terran Interiors days that built my turnings for Bombay. He was my vendor and called me one day and said, "Bob, man, I could use your help. I've got 7 lawsuits going. I can't collect receivables. Will you come help me?" And so I flew down to San Antonio and in about 2 weeks solved all his lawsuits and collected all his receivables. And he said, "Man, how'd you do that?" I said, "See that instrument on your desk called a telephone?" I picked it up and talked to them.
Good old communication.
And I said, in that process, I had 3 job offers. And so we were consulting. He was taking offers to sell his company and having me look at him. I said, "Can I put an offer in?" He goes, "You'd be interested?" I said, "I'm really interested." So he had a high-end architectural millwork and door company and 25 of the most talented craftsmen on the planet.
Wow.
And it's just rare. And it was rare then. It's even more rare today.
So they were in San Antonio?
San Antonio.
Okay.
And made him an offer of $5 million. He was getting offers between $1.7 million and $2.7 million. And I said, "Ronnie, I'll give you $5 million over 5 years." And he turned me down. I said, "It's okay. You don't have to sell your company." And he wasn't sure. He was struggling. And then fast forward to '06. So that was '01. He called me and said, "I'm shutting it down." I said, "Oh, no, you're not." He said, "Barb's left me for somebody, and I'm done. I'm shutting it down." I go, "No, you're not. You're not going to throw 30 years away. I'll be down Saturday." And went down. He said, "You're still interested?" I said, "I am, but I'm not going to bid against myself. You got to send me an offer that I can't refuse because I got to shut down my construction company. Got to sell the house, move the family. So it's got to be a number that I can't refuse." I said, "Okay." So he sent me a number, $600,000 for 50%. I said, "Done."
Oh, so you bought half of it?
Bought half of it.
Okay. Did you move?
We moved. I commuted for a year.
Okay.
Bought half of it. The longleaf pine in the warehouse was worth $1 million. Not to mention the building, the machinery, right?
Yeah.
And so I married my 21st century manufacturing with Old World Benjamin, right? He was doing stuff for movie stars and wealthy people and incredible millwork, stuff you haven't seen in 100 years. And I brought my 21st century CNC manufacturing to that. And we went after some of the biggest projects in the United States. We did the Mandalay Bay Hotel Casino, Las Vegas, the towers.
Right.
And we did the Montage Hotel in Beverly Hills, one of the most posh hotels in the country. And so we were a $2.75 million company when I bought. 2 years grew it to 12 million. So 2.5 million losing money, 12 million making 5 million.
Nice.
The Montage Hotel, we made $5.1 million on a $12 million project. We were at that point a $4 million a year company. That was a $12 million project that had to be delivered in 9 months. And we delivered it. And it was amazing.
So his smartest move was selling you half of it and not all of it, for sure.
Right? And it was my mistake.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, after that, we discovered Ronnie had a bipolar disease.
Oh. So there was definitely something going on.
And it was ugly. It got
just
ugly.
debilitating for him.
It was ugly.
Oh, that's terrible.
And so he ended up, the short story is he ended up buying us out for about $3.5 million.
Okay.
2 years. 2 years later.
He bought you out?
Yeah.
Okay, so he bought it back, basically.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So after that, we moved back to Fort Worth. And what did I do after that?
Well, let me see. I have some stuff. Cheyenne Construction?
Yeah, I bought Cheyenne in 2011. So I think I did some GC work again in between. I was building wine cellars for buddies,
Okay.
which was fun.
See a wine theme here.
Yeah, and had fun with that. And then a friend of mine called me, owner of Cheyenne Construction, and was in trouble. Didn't want to see a friend bankrupt at 50, and came in and bought 55% of the company because it was upside down, and made a deal that, once we got back to zero, we'd be 50-50 partners.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew nothing about concrete.
It's a pretty nice industry to be in, is kind of my understanding.
Not so much.
Really?
Never made really any money. We were operating on 12% gross margins.
So were y'all pouring
finish?
Okay.
Yep. Just it's hard.
So did you have the batch plants too?
No, we bought the concrete.
You bought the See, I've always thought that the batch plants look like a pretty good deal.
I think batch plants are a really good deal.
A really good deal.
Yes, they are.
Okay. But the pouring part, not so much.
The risk was so high.
Yeah.
If you screwed up a $200,000 or $500,000 slab, you ate that.
Oh, that's not good. Yeah.
So not only did you pay to put it in the first time, you have to pay to tear it out and put it in the second time. And it's just, so my net worth was on the line every day. And that was no fun. But I didn't know how to get off the Ferris wheel. So it took you a while to get that thing back around. Yeah. And unfortunately, I had to remove the founder for cause 2 years in. And it was another ugly time. I'm not good at picking partners. But I've learned lessons through each of those. Yeah. That has made me who I am. And so we powered through them, brought in some expertise. I knew nothing about concrete. I knew how to run a business. Brought those that knew concrete into the business. And it's like paddling a boat down the river. If you pull the anchor, you can actually go down the river. Mm-hmm. And so, gotcha. So when we made the move, we grew it from about 2.5 million. 10 was pretty easy, getting to 10. 10 to 20 had a little more challenge to it. I idled it at 20 for 2 years to let systems and people catch up. Right people, right seats. Sure. Right. Got team buy-in to throttle it again. So we throttled to 32. Wheels came off at 32. Learned lots of lessons in that. Throttled it back to 20 again. Caught our breath. Wow. Right. And fortunately, through it all, we didn't lose money, right? Yeah. But we didn't make any.
You just couldn't get it. Yeah.
Yeah. But what's hard about that is at 30, taking it from 20 to 32, everybody's worked their tail off. Right. Right. And when there's no fruits to show for that work, trying to get your team back is really difficult. Yeah, it's tough. Yeah. It's really tough. It's like, what do you mean there's no bonuses? We worked our butts off. Right? Yeah. That's hard. We didn't make any money. Right. And so that's really hard. It's a really hard lesson. But it's also, I've also always been very transparent with my financials, with my executive team. They know what I make. They know what the company makes, because they can't help me grow a business if they don't know the numbers. My bank had told us that our job costing program was the best in the industry. My superintendent in the field can't help me if he doesn't know his numbers. Yeah. Real time. Yeah. Right? We can't get to the end of the job and go, well, Bob, we didn't make money because remember it rained, and then, remember it did this, and remember it did that. After the fact, what good does that do you?
Nothing. Yeah.
It doesn't do anything for you.
Right.
And so we developed a system, or bought into a system that gave real-time data. But also one of the best things we did was we engaged a program called Exact Time. Mm-hmm. So every superintendent in the field had an iPad. All his employees on that project logged in every morning. It took their GPS coordinate, their picture. So one person couldn't log in for another.
Yeah.
Or I didn't get the timesheet at the end of the week. Hey, Bob, we all work from 7 to 3:30.
Right.
Exactly?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, data. Being able to get accurate data, be able to compile it in a way that you can quickly assess where you are. That's great.
And they logged into the schedule of value that they were working on that day.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're working on foundations, it gave us real-time job cost on the foundations. So let's say we get done the foundations and we're behind financially. Well, the superintendent knows that he's got 3 more phases to make that up. Or he's ahead and he's got a little more cushion to get the other phases in.
Yeah.
Right. Because we can't bid rain. We can't bid the slow plumber in front of us. Can't bid the slow electrician in front of us.
Right.
We can't bid a bad superintendent. And so, you've got to manage all that.
Yeah.
And you can't manage it without numbers.
Yeah, it's just a lot of variables there. Yeah. I remember the first time I really saw a company that did that had that really good visibility all the way through, not only with visibility on the financials, but also the incentives and so forth. With Choice Homes back in the day. I know you started out, building homes and stuff. They did such a good job of that. Everybody in that organization back when they were really moving knew all of the same information,
right.
And they were all incentivized off the same information, right. So they could make decisions out in the field, right. At very incredibly lower levels,
right.
Very quickly to be able to move the bottom line.
That's right.
Yeah, it's really cool concept.
And you can reward those that are succeeding.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
At every level.
And this subdivision, is killing it.
Yeah.
They're able to participate.
Right.
Yeah.
John makes me money at every project he builds. Why is that? Let's pick John's brain.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And let's pay him for it.
Let's pay him more.
Yeah.
Yeah. He deserves to be the top paid.
Yeah.
Right? So
let's go back to something you said, because I thought it was interesting. We were talking about, you said, well, I just don't pick partners very well. Bob, you're an incredibly compassionate person. And it sounds like you found yourselves in some positions, from a business standpoint, due to just kind of your personal feelings about wanting to do good. That's what I see.
Yeah.
Okay. And I also see it because they don't see it because it's down here. And I know that you've taken that to the next level. And not only are you kind of a serial entrepreneur, but you're a kind of a serial giver.
Yeah.
So when did you start giving back at this level where you see, because, you've talked about how you see a company in trouble and you want to get involved and you want to turn around. That's fun and cool. Yeah. But you've also done that on a charitable level. Can you talk to us a little bit about how you turned that corner and started doing some of that great work?
Sure. I've always been a person of faith. When I had a child in high school, the only person that was with me that whole period was my God. And he walked me through that, held me, carried me. And we've had a relationship since that he's put people in my path to help. Sometimes it's been a rough road.
Yeah.
But looking back at that path, I've always realized why he put me there. I was called to San Antonio, and I thought I was leading my partner to Christ, and it didn't have anything to do with him. He was working on me. He taught me blind faith through that process. Cheyenne Construction, we had to remove for cause. I was taught forgiveness in that process at a level that I never experienced. And forgiveness was for me.
Yeah.
It wasn't for him.
Yeah.
Right. And so through that, he's just constantly, I listen. I have my eyes open, not all the time. Sometimes I'm blind, like in my first marriage. I've learned I had blinders on in some areas that caused the loss of my first marriage. And so I was called to the homeless community in Fort Worth, through church activities, and homelessness is complicated. but I kept getting called to that neighborhood. And so one day I had lunch with Toby Owen, the director of Presbyterian Night Shelter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And for 45 minutes, he talked about how all the businesses were trying to run them out of the community. Because
Which neighborhood is this? Is
the
this
East Lancaster.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
Yeah,
Okay.
because they're all the services are congregated.
They're all right there.
Right.
Yeah.
And the businesses were frustrated and with all that. And at the end of that meeting, I said, Toby, why don't I move all my businesses into the neighborhood? Let's make it their neighborhood, not ours. And he looked at me like I was smoking crack. And it's like, you would do that? I said, I feel called to this neighborhood to be a different light. And I love the Parker Brown building. It was a boarded up historic warehouse. We didn't know at the time it was historic.
Yeah.
And I said, let me look into the cost of refurbishing that for my companies. And looked into it. We were going to be $1 million upside down when we finished. And I looked up and he looked down. And I said, well, it's all yours anyway, so I guess we better get started. This is where you want me.
Wow.
And 60 days in, we discovered historic tax credits worth $1.6 million.
How about that?
And I looked up and he looked down and he goes, that was easy. Now what are you going to do?
Yeah, right.
And we started a homeless program called the Leg Up program.
Yeah.
And it was called the Leg Up on purpose because we were about giving people a leg up, not a handout.
Right.
Teaching a person.
That's kind of the complicated part of homelessness, I think, is that, we want to, it's more, the way I understand it, it's more about self-worth than is about, material need in some ways.
Right.
And, being able to give them a leg up so that they can feel like they can do something on their own.
Yeah. When they become homeless and on the street, they're in a downward spiral.
Right.
And you and I can put 1 and 2 together and take that next step.
Mm-hmm.
They're in fight or flight. And so they're just mentally not in a place that they know how to get out of. And we all think it's all drugs or alcohol or what have you, and it's just not. Yeah, there is a percentage of that mental health.
Yes.
But I've sat across from people that one particular lady had 2 master's degrees, lost her job at 59 years old, couldn't get rehired at 59. She owned her own home, her own car. She lost everything and was homeless. She goes, Bob, I thought this is the last place I thought I'd be. I did everything right.
Yeah.
I got educated. I live within my means. I own my own home. And I'm homeless. What the heck?
Yeah.
And so we build employees, I build homeless the same way. You build their confidence.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So they can talk about their circumstance and ask for that next job with confidence and being able to share the most difficult time of their life.
Yeah.
Right? And then I leveraged my entrepreneur organization relationships, getting people hired.
Well, it didn't stop there, though. I mean, you've continued to do other stuff. You have now Day Resource Center. That is that the
DRC.
Yeah, DRC. That's the one for teenage mental health. Is that correct?
No.
Okay.
So I sit on the board. So during COVID, we ended up shutting down the Leg Up program.
Okay.
And I merged it with the Day Resource Solution.
Okay.
It was Day Resource Center. Now it's Day Resource
So that
Solutions.
merged, and then you created Branch of Hope.
I didn't create it myself.
Okay.
A neighbor, 2 neighbors of mine approached me about donating to this project they had to help address teenage mental health and suicide. My neighbor's 12-year-old son committed suicide. And I said, golly, if we don't contribute to that, we need to go stick our heads in the sand.
Another very complicated problem, too, though.
Yes, it is.
And this was during COVID, correct?
This was during COVID.
Very complicated period, certainly for young people. I have kids, and that was tough.
Yeah.
I think it was tougher on, certainly the specific age groups within our youth.
Without a doubt.
And we're still, we still don't know
Right.
what the aftermath of that's going to be.
That's right. Well, teenage mental health and suicide between 11 and 21-year-olds is the number one cause of death between 11 and 21-year-olds is suicide. That's ridiculous.
That's no good.
It's ridiculous. Yeah. And we can do something with that. And so we had some neighbors that were tired of sitting on the sidelines going, like, what do we do?
Yeah.
MJ, Mary Jean Bentley, took the bull by the horns, wanted to create something. Brad Huntstable is the one that's son in suicide, and he's out speaking to teenagers every day.
Yeah.
Came to my wife and I for a donation, and I said to MJ, I go, well, we have a lot more than $5,000. What's the name of your nonprofit? And they said, well, it's not a nonprofit. It's a for-profit.
Yeah.
And I said, ooh. I said, that's a problem. I said, I'm not called to enrich others. And so we're going to have to beg out on that.
Mm.
And she said, well, will you at least meet my partners? I said, sure, I'd be happy to. Met them, got a lot of reasons why it wasn't going to be a nonprofit. One was that it would take 2 years to get a 501c3.
Yeah, it's hard.
C3,
it's a hard process.
right?
Yeah.
And I said, well, I actually have one on the shelf. For some reason, I haven't shut it down. And that was the leg up that was sitting there.
Okay.
I said, you can have it.
Oh, wow.
So
Great.
I took the excuses away. And they said, well, we'll get back to you. And so a few weeks went by, and MJ called and said, we dissolved the partnership. You're right, it needs to be a 501c3.
Yeah.
And can we still have your 501c3? I can have it today. Formed a board, got started, closed on a 23-acre, raised enough money to close on a 23-acre ranch in Aledo called Branch to Hope Community Center. And the place is just magic.
So this is where you can get these kids kind of into a different element, I would suspect.
Yep.
And, I don't know a lot about it, but I understand that, like the horse therapy and things like that is real.
Yep. And we're building all that. And, we kind of like the homeless program.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to do, or we were just called to that place, go dive in, get your hands dirty.
Well, it's the same as, starting a business, I guess, right? You just got to start somewhere. And
yeah, the first 4 homeless I sent to a job site, and I sent them to this great big job site in Dallas. Cranes flying, tractors running.
Yeah, they're like, oh no.
And my superintendent called me and goes, Bob, what the hell are you doing? What are you thinking? I go, well, we're trying to learn what we don't know.
Yeah.
He goes, this ain't working. I said, okay, well, send them back.
Yeah, we'll try something else.
And we put them on a smaller job and taught them how to stack lumber and tie steel and, those a little bit smaller.
Okay.
And so anyway.
That's cool. Just the courage to be able to just go and tackle hard stuff and, and fail a little bit along the way so you can figure it out and do something amazing with it. So currently you have your company that's Impact Promotional Services, doing business as You Got Covered Workwear and Uniform.
Got You Covered Workwear.
Got You Covered Workwear and Uniform, which is completely different than any of your other businesses.
Right. And
you stumbled into this one in some fascinating fashion, I'm sure, as well.
So I've owned this 24 years.
Okay.
I think it's 24. I lose count. I bought it for my wife 24 years ago. She was killing it in her job.
Yeah.
Working for Marriott, and she ran a little convenience store inside the Nokia mobile phones plant.
Oh.
And turned it into $1 million production, this little tiny store. And we went to Marriott to show them how we could do this around the country for them. Mm-hmm. And they're like, that's great, but that's not our business plan. And I said, in my brilliance, I'm going to buy her a store.
Yeah, right? Okay. So you bought your wife's store.
I bought the store.
Okay.
It was a second generation run. It had run into the ground and bought it. Well, fast forward into it about a year, losing money. she hated owing me money, and she really didn't like working for me.
Yeah.
And so I brought in a GM. I said, get it out of the red and you can have half, because I was running other stuff. For like 20 years, it made enough money to support him and his family, and I didn't pay a lot of attention to it. And then 3 years ago, maybe 4 now, he said, I'm done. I'm out. And so I could have written off $1 million or made something of it. And I just don't quit. I don't.
Yeah, so
I
you just rolled up your sleeves.
It's like, man, this is a good business.
Okay.
And stumbled a few times. First couple of people I hired. And then I hired a friend of mine as a consultant who did retail turnarounds.
Yeah.
And made some progress. And then she said, do you want to, would you be interested in hiring the person that's taught me everything I know? I go, hell yeah.
Yeah.
And for half price that she usually gets, I go, yeah, especially. And so she came aboard, turned the company around. And then the big 800-pound gorilla in the industry bought all the major players. And what happened was that the customer.
And let me stop you there. So this is uniforms, right?
Uniforms.
Okay.
First responder uniforms.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay.
And so we were just a little mom and pop that were given our little tiny territory. But the 800-pound gorilla bought all of the major players in the entire state of Texas. And I thought they came after me, but I didn't have anything to sell because we were broken. And I said, come back in a year and I'll have something to sell you. And they said, okay. And well, during that year, they bought everybody else. And I thought they were just going to crush us.
Yeah.
And so fast forward again, they really fell down in Texas. Customers didn't like them and the employees didn't like them. And I went and hired two of their GMs and their number 2 sales guy in Houston, opened Houston. I gave each of them 5% of the company over 5 years, and we took off.
Wow.
They knew the business, been in the business longer. Well, they've been in the business the same amount of time, but I wasn't in the business. And so they knew way more than I did.
So the Houston just exploded.
Exploded.
That just turned into
exploded.
And then were you able to take that and then garner some traction here and other places?
My sales guy had a 6-month non-compete in Houston.
Okay.
So I had to pay him for 6 months. Brought him up to Fort Worth. Trained my sales team in Fort Worth for 6 months.
Gotcha. Okay.
Put him back in Houston and then off to the races.
Yeah.
And we've grown that business in a big way.
Well, that sounds like fun.
It's fun again. Yeah, it's actually a lot of fun. The part that wasn't fun is I mortgaged the lake house to pull all that off. And my wife was not happy with me. Yeah. So you did what?
So this whole business was creating some marital strife all along the way, I can see. But it sounds like you've gotten through it okay.
Oh, I've got an amazing partner, and my wife is so amazing.
Yeah.
She's a communicator.
Uh-huh.
And she has no problem telling me, Bob, it's not about you, buddy.
There you go.
Right.
Very good.
And
keeps you grounded.
She's amazing.
That's huge. So, that's good. That's good. All right. Well, so what's up? What's going on for Bob from this point forward? What do you think?
You know, what I would leave in this story, what I would do different.
Okay.
I would never run more than one company at a time.
I like that.
You know, as entrepreneurs,
because it just spreads you too thin, doesn't it?
You can't give each one 100% of your time.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be. No one's going to run it as good as you are. And so, with that focus being gone, where it could have been or could go is taken away.
So what you're saying, Bob, is you're not necessarily a serial entrepreneur anymore. You're a serial entrepreneur in recovery.
Yeah, could be.
It's what it sounds like. So you're taking it down to focus and.
So my two most successful companies were my first.
Yeah.
Because that's all I was doing.
Yeah.
And now my last.
And now you're last because that's all you're doing. So that's one of the common denominators.
Yes.
Very good.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's easy as entrepreneurs when you get it running to go, hey, you want to invest in this and you want to invest in that and you want to invest in this. And wealth manager has shared with me for years that it's easier to make it than it is to keep it.
It is. Yeah.
Right. And so,
Yeah. And sometimes you just don't really recognize, the real risk and the real luck that's involved
Right.
sometimes as
Yeah.
well. You say, "Oh, I can do this over again,
right.
no problem." And
Yeah.
it's different problems, different risks.
Different dynamics, different industry, different, different lots of things.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Well, cool. Well, it's been great having you on the show. I really appreciate you sharing. A lot of great information here for everybody. If somebody wanted to get in touch with you and visit with you about just questions or wanted to know more about some of your endeavors, what's a good way for somebody to get in contact with you?
probably my email.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you just kind of say that for us out
Sure.
loud, and then we'll put it in the show notes?
Yep. RMM, as in Robert Michael McCarthy, senior, spelled out, SENIOR, @gmail.com.
Okay, great. So we'll put that in the show notes, and
Okay.
I want to encourage everybody out there, reach out to Bob if you have any questions. And as always, we try to have somebody on here that's gonna enhance and help you better succeed in your business. And I think we've certainly done that today. We try to put one of these out every other week. If you ever have any suggestions on somebody that you think would be good for podcast material, feel free to reach out to me and let me know. We're always looking for quality folks. And thank you for joining us today.
I got one more plug.
Okay, another plug.
One more plug.
Hold on, one more. Go
Game
ahead.
changer.
All right, let's hear it.
So 12 years ago, joined Entrepreneurial Organization, EO Fort
Okay,
Worth.
let's do that for sure. Really good organization.
And
The EO Fort Worth is a fantastic place
yes,
to go and get basically help with this type of stuff. What's the way that somebody kind of gets involved with EO? Who they contact? You?
So no, they get on their website,
Okay.
and we have a membership chair on the board
Okay.
of the local chapter.
And the website is what? It's EO.org.
Yeah, eonetwork.org.
EOnetwork.org.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. The
And,
final plug for EO, and I can say that is a fantastic place,
Yeah.
a great resource.
Yeah, that was a game changer for me. From 50 to 62 today. I'm 62. It gave me my entrepreneurial spirit back, gave me my drive back. I've learned more in the last 12 years about business than I did the first 20.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
And so just so much there that I can't say enough about. So.
Yeah. That's good. I appreciate you putting in that last plug. Folks, we really appreciate you being with us. Everybody have a great week. Take care.